Sorority.
It's just how I feel. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. So this is episode 40,
Yeah.
and this is going to be on hazing. And we have said in the past, the initial point or reason or goal or whatever of this
Oh, yes.
podcast, if you can call it that, was for victims and survivors of abuse.
Yes.
Now, I had to say to myself today,
Mhm.
I was having a very narrow view of that. I was only considering it between, I mean, I know it exists, but I was only thinking about romantic relationships,
Mhm.
because that was my first purpose with this.
Mhm.
Okay. But hazing is abuse.
Oh, yeah.
And so the Westhill boys lacrosse team is what brought this up, right? That was an
Mhm.
event that occurred in a city close to us.
Yep.
Before I get into that, okay, hazing itself,
Yes.
okay, involves, and this is why it is abuse.
Yeah.
It involves subjecting someone to humiliation, abusive or dangerous activities as
Mhm.
part of an initiation process or to maintain membership in a group.
Yep.
It can take many forms, including forced alcohol consumption, which we hear about,
Which kills people.
public shaming, physical abuse or threats, and
Mhm.
can have serious consequences for both the individuals involved and the organization. Now, another, and they talk about examples of hazing. Another one, that can be part of it besides humiliation, um, forced or coerced sexual acts.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so hazing, public degrading, shaming, the alcohol, humiliation, abuse. Um, it's just, and the consequences, obviously, besides physical harm, are also emotional and psychological harm.
Oh my gosh, that
Um,
sticks with you forever. Yes.
legal consequences,
Mhm.
damage to reputation, disruption of campus life, if we are going to talk about it solely in regard to colleges. It
Right.
doesn't just
Right.
happen in college.
Mhm.
Um, and so it has a pretty, there's a pretty broad spectrum here, okay? And uh, and the thing that, okay, let me just go to this. The thing that kind of drives me like bonkers about it, right? If you want to talk about it just in the sense of fraternity and sorority,
Okay.
okay, which we have heard a lot.
Of it in
Everyone
that.
has heard a story of,
Sure.
usually you hear about a fraternity
Yeah.
of forced alcohol consumption and the kid dying. Okay.
Yes.
There
Yes.
was a local kid to Buffalo a
Yes.
couple of years ago
Uh-huh.
that died on his
Mhm.
college campus after a hazing incident.
Mhm.
Okay, fraternity means brotherhood. Sorority means sisterhood.
Mhm.
Okay, that is their point and purpose, right?
Mhm.
And they usually have some kind of mission tied to their fraternity, like maybe a
Sure.
charity or whatever. Okay, great. I'm so glad they do that. I can't even get into the whys yet, but like for me, it's like, okay, so the price of admission into this group
Yeah.
that are going to be with me my rest of my life because they're my brothers and my sisters and all this stuff
Which is another super layered, twisted thing. Yep.
is is possible alcohol poisoning, public shaming, humiliation, degradation, possible forced sex acts. This is my price of admission
Yep.
into this group.
Yep.
Okay. Now, focusing on the Westhill boys lacrosse team,
Mhm.
this is what they did
Mhm.
in their hazing incident.
Mhm.
Okay. They kidnapped the kid.
Mhm.
He didn't know it was them.
Mhm.
They put a pillowcase over his head. They intimidated with a knife and a gun, and they put him in the trunk of a car.
Mhm,
He didn't know it was a hazing incident.
mhm,
He thought he was being kidnapped.
mhm,
Can you imagine what was going through his mind? And he was a younger member of the team. He was a newer member of the team, right?
mhm.
Can you imagine what was going through that kid's mind? This came a couple days after a failed kidnapping attempt because the kid they tried it on recognized it for what it was and was like, and he knew like it was, he knew something was
Oh,
up
I
and
didn't realize that. So
yeah,
this was their
yeah.
second attempt.
So
Okay.
the first kid that they tried it on was like, he was pretty savvy. He was like, I know what this is, right? So that
Mhm,
one didn't go through because he called him on it. He was like, I know it's you guys. I know it's you guys, right?
mhm, mhm.
But because, they're a team, he didn't report it because why would he report it?
Yeah, of
These are his teammates, these are his buddies. This is the group he's trying to become part of,
course.
right?
Yeah.
Not going to piss him off by reporting it. So this kid, the second attempt, which worked, and then they dropped him off somewhere with the pillowcase still in his head. I mean, and I guess the reaction is supposed to be when this kid found out it was them, they were all going to have a good laugh and be like, "You did well, you passed,
Maybe.
right? You
Right.
passed." The thing with this incident is that nobody was seriously physically injured,
Mhm,
which is positive.
mhm.
However, you do not know the emotional or mental or psychological effects that this kid is dealing with. So there's an organization called stophazing.org, and the woman who is in charge of it or started it is also a professor at the University of Maine.
Okay.
Wrote an opinion ed piece on the Westhill boys lacrosse hazing incident.
Okay.
And
Hold
she
on.
said,
Is that,
oh,
wait,
uh-oh,
was that my internet or yours?
I don't know, because
I
I'm
don't know.
still moving and talking.
All right, we're good now. Okay, go. So,
Okay. Little excitement, folks. And so here's the deal. I'll get to her in a second. Okay, so as she says, someone was reportedly put in the trunk of a car, someone was dropped off with a pillowcase over the head, and what looked like a handgun and a knife were also used to intimidate. This is abusive behavior, and we should not minimize it. It's abusive behavior. Okay.
yes.
So the outcome of this situation, legally speaking, legally speaking, the Onondaga County District Attorney promised the 11 West Hill School lacrosse players, 11, accused of abducting a young player, that things would go better for them if they turned themselves in.
Mhm,
He pledged they would get a ticket for a misdemeanor instead of being charged with kidnapping, which is a felony.
mhm,
He said they would have no criminal record, would not be held in jail, and would not have bail set by a judge. All 11 turned themselves in,
mhm.
and their records are sealed. So it's like it never happened.
Like it never happened. Yeah.
Right now, we don't know what the discipline is going to be within the school,
Mhm.
right? Frankly, they shouldn't be allowed to play.
At the
That's
least, yeah.
that's my take,
Yeah.
right? And so one of the questions that I had, after reading, and I've heard of other hazing incidents, we've all seen Animal House, right? Like, and that's, funny, yes, sir, may I have another. I mean, everyone
Uh-huh.
remembers that scene.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so why does this have to be the way?
Yeah, I was wishing that I had actually, did you look back how far this goes by any chance?
Hazing?
Yeah.
1838
Okay.
was the first documented case of hazing where someone died. In the United States, there have been 400 deaths from hazing since 1838. That doesn't sound like a large number, but 40 of them occurred between like 2010 and 2020.
Ah.
And the number of kids who come into college from high school and report that they've already been hazed once is 70%.
You mean prior to entering college?
Yeah. In middle school and high school, they've already gone through a hazing incident. And now, I don't know how to say this diplomatically, but I don't have statistics on it, but from all the things I've heard over the years, when you hear about hazing cases, it's with males.
Mm-hmm.
Women can be just as awful. So I'm sure there are
I'm
some,
sure it's there.
I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sure. And then don't forget, these are the ones we hear about are the ones that are reported
I know. Yeah.
because something went awry,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we hear about it. Someone died, someone got injured, these kids got caught,
But the
right?
emotional wounding and everything, we haven't even scratched that surface because those aren't reported.
They're not reported. And there was one a couple of years ago that was at UB and they left the kid on the front lawn of a party. I
I
remember that
remember.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did he die? I don't think he died, but he was
Mm-mm.
close to death.
Mm-hmm.
He had like major alcohol poisoning.
Mm-hmm. And
And these kids, they're
hypothermia
so,
and yeah.
I can't remember, but these kids, they're so young when they see something, because a lot of kids, I'm saying kids, okay, let's say like 16 to 22, they honestly don't think anything's going to happen, right? They really
Mm-hmm.
don't. Kids that
Mm-hmm.
age think they're infallible,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
No one they know is going to die in a car accident. No one they know is going to get cancer. No one they know is going to die of alcohol poisoning. It just doesn't happen. We're young. And then when something happens, they freak out and they run away because they don't know what to do.
Absolutely.
Also afraid that if they contact an adult, either someone at the school or their parents, they're going to get in trouble,
Yep.
which
Yep.
fuck yeah, you should get in trouble. Like, okay. So my question, like, okay, why? Right. And so this lady, I should really give you her name, but I can't. The motivations for hazing are complex. There isn't one apparent reason why it happens. Sometimes it's simply a cycle and amplification
Got it.
of a hazing tradition the previous group experienced. Other times, the abuse wasn't necessarily intended, but spun out of control because judgment is impaired due to alcohol, other substances, and peer pressure.
Right. Right.
This is the part. In
Yep.
other cases, it might be explained as a weeding out process. And yes, power and abuse of power are central to hazing. And
Yes.
that connection between the strong human desire for a sense of belonging and the peer pressure that can exist in groups.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I like how she said it is a power and control thing, which is what makes it abuse. It is a power and control thing.
And that
So
is the basis of the whole experience is we have power over you and we're going to exert that. And if you survive that, then you can join us. That's how it's set up. We're doing it because we are bigger than you and we're, yeah.
because we're a unit and you're trying to get into our unit,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, when the older players, members, whatever, they went through their own hazing, right? So they feel they've earned the right to do this because I went through it. It was done to
Yeah.
me.
Well,
You're
yeah.
no different than
It's
me,
no different
right?
than family generational trauma and repeated behavior. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, this is how we man you up in our family. Hmm.
Okay. So, and when I looked up hazing incidents, because I had the Westhill article already up, and I looked at hazing incidents, there was just one a couple of days ago. It's a YouTube video. I didn't watch it, but I saw the headline where it was a hazing incident. It was male based. I think it was a fraternity. And one of the kids used his head and said, I got to take him to the hospital. He drove him to the hospital. Do these kids understand, right? This is not a video game.
Yeah.
Like when that kid from Buffalo died in that alcohol related hazing incident,
Mhm.
criminal charges are pressed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also probably a civil case from the family.
Mhm.
You basically killed somebody.
Mhm. Mhm.
You caused the death of someone
Mhm.
who just wanted to have this belonging with your group.
Ugh.
And the thing is, the lady who wrote this article, I think I have her name. She's the head of stophazing.org, so you can easily find her name.
Mhm.
Uh, Elizabeth Allen, I think.
Okay.
Hold on. Oh, Ellen, you dumb dumb. Um, I think it's Elizabeth Allen. But you, you know what I mean? Like she said, she's like, it's been going on for years. She's
That's
like,
what's weird about it is that there's this underlying acceptance and permission about it.
mm-hmm.
It's just like they expect it. I mean, they even say if you want to pledge, you can be picked up any point from this week on, and we're going to drag you. I mean, they expect it.
Oh, that's that. Yeah. So, and almost too, they're so willing.
Oh, yeah, because there's an understanding that this is what you have to do to be in. Yeah, I mean,
Do you think
all
they
of it is
feel
complacent. Yeah, there's all the, yeah.
like, I mean, and do you think once they get through the hazing and they survive the hazing that they have some kind of like, like, whoa, I'm tough. Like
I
I
think
made
so.
it. I did it. Like,
I
and
think
they
so.
almost have this like boost. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just can't like this is what's so amazing to me. Like she said, it's been going on for years. Like we said, we had the first documented case of a death from hazing in 1838. It was probably way before that. Okay.
I believe.
Um,
Yeah.
and she's like, and it's been going on for years. It hasn't stopped. She's like, just because we don't hear a bunch of stories or we don't see anything in the headlines, it's still happening.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, and it's going to continue to happen
Mm-hmm.
because there's actual, I mean, like these kids in Westhill, like the sheriff being like, if you turn yourselves in, it'll just be a misdemeanor. Your records will be sealed, blah, blah, blah.
You mean
Is it enough?
the low level of, yeah, yeah, because the repercussions aren't that, and that's setting an example, but you're
It's not
right.
enough.
To survive hazing is also like this, you know, badge of honor too.
But everybody's different.
Right.
Maybe some come out of it and it's a badge of honor and it doesn't bother them. And they're like, I did it, whatever, moving on. Now I'm a full-fledged member, whatever. But then you don't know if another person, and here's, and this is another thing about it. Depending on how the person acted during the hazing,
Mm-hmm.
what if they cried? What if they, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, what if they cried? What if they threw up? What if they like, well, then they're just going to get teased
Yeah.
afterwards, even if they make it through. And that's where the power and the control come from, right? Like, well, now you've got this story about this guy who's your brother for life, but now you can totally rag on him that he cried when he got, like, I mean, this poor kid that got
Really?
kidnapped
Yeah.
and obviously had to tell somebody
Yeah.
because he really thought he got kidnapped,
Yeah.
right?
For real. Mm-hmm.
And so the police had to be called because his family probably, I mean, can you imagine the scene? I mean, I can't even imagine the scene. Like your son's dropped off on your front lawn with a pillowcase over his head.
Yeah. And then,
Hi.
oh my gosh, yeah, and the parents and
And so the police had to be called. Now, what's his relationship going to be like now with these 11 players that did it because he caused them to get caught? This is why it's just absolutely
yeah.
built for disaster.
It is.
Like
There's nothing about
so
it
many
that,
levels.
yeah. And then, it's interesting because I was thinking of all the years I've never had anybody come in with a hazing trauma story, right? And let me
Mhm.
tell you why. Because people don't come into therapy with a story that they want to recover from if they don't know where they have to find the recovery from. So we understand that sexual abuse is wrong. So once you come to terms that that happened, ideally you seek help, right?
Right.
But there's no one coming to terms with the fact that their hazing incident was humiliating or traumatic or abusive. There aren't these epiphanies of people because it's still condoned. So
You know what? It is socially condoned.
it is socially condoned. And I can align that with, being in the field long enough and watching abusive marriages. It took a long time for women to come forward and men and say, you know, oh, it's no big deal. Um, he would just demean me. I mean, it wouldn't even use that. It's no big deal. He just, he said that I wasn't a really great person. Like or men being physically abused by women. They never said that because it wasn't considered, it was not condoned, but it was not an issue. So there's almost like this responsibility within the human condition to acknowledge this is where one voice matters, right? Because you have
Mhm.
to acknowledge it's not okay, because until the collective recognizes that it's not okay, then you won't realize that maybe that is the crux of something you need to work through. It's very common, um, for there to be sexual abuse between males in hazing incidents. I absolutely know that. I haven't experienced anybody that's done that, but I know just from school, it's a thing where they're abused,
Right.
and but
That's
I've never,
right.
but it's condoned, right?
Well,
By saying hazing is not a crime and identifying individual circumstances as the crime, hazing should just be
well,
because,
it says, you know what, it's funny because it's all about the wording, right?
yeah,
Like it's all semantics. Hazing, it says at the end of this thing. Okay. Okay, can work. Um, in New York, hazing is a crime
okay,
and can be prosecuted as a Class A misdemeanor or a violation, depending on the severity of the offense and the harm caused. So that's where it gets tough, right?
hmm,
What if someone was hazed by the fact that they put Vaseline on his doorknob,
right,
right? And then what if someone was hazed because they were forced to have anal sex with the other
right,
members of the fraternity?
yeah,
That is rape. That's a crime in itself.
yeah. Yet you could contest in court that it was consensual because you agreed to pledge and be hazed.
But that's another thing too, is they also say, well, in some of the, okay, so there are people who are willing,
Yeah.
they're willing until they find out what it is that's going to happen to them,
Well, maybe
right?
that's the
Like
thing. Yeah. I mean,
they may not know
right.
what their hazing is going to be, but it does say in here that, some people are not willing participants in their hazing.
Yeah.
So they may get to, we've all seen the classic fraternity things where like the guys are blindfolded and brought to a room and then all their blindfolds are taken off and the members, the full-fledged members of the fraternity are wearing like robes and stuff
Right,
and they're
right,
like,
right, right, right.
like it's like a
You're like, drink the blood
ceremony.
of our brothers. Yeah, right.
It's like yeah, frankly, it's just so stupid. And every Greek organization in the world is going to hate me for saying this, but get with the times. Oh my gosh. Are you
But that's
serious?
how they're honoring their forefathers, Ellen. That,
I abuse. Do you know how incredibly unevolved and dumb that
Yeah. But
sounds.
then again, if we think back to where this all generated from, the Greeks were pretty hedonistic. It was pretty bad. So,
Well, I mean, just think about, um, I remember reading this book once, and it was about Native Americans and younger men becoming braves within
yeah.
the tribe.
Hmm.
And one of the ceremonies that they had to go through to become a brave was called the sun ceremony. And what they did is they drove stakes through the skin of their chest, and then they hung them by it
Oh my gosh.
until the stake like ripped through the skin, and then they fell to the ground. That was their
Um,
initiation.
okay.
So they carried those scars proudly,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
That could be considered hazing, but they wanted to be a brave. They had to show that they, right, that they had courage and fortitude. And
Yikes.
yeah, isn't that brutal?
Jeez.
It's brutal. But again, willing.
Yeah.
They
And
were
knew it
willing.
and knew exactly what it was going to be.
They
It's the
knew it was
same thing.
coming.
They
Yeah,
witnessed it.
that
Yeah.
was the initiation. Like
Yeah.
you had to, I'm sure these guys probably passed out within 10 minutes after being hung from the,
Oh, yeah.
um, so it's such an
My
interesting
God.
topic because it's
Yeah, I'm
like
like nauseous. I can't stop saying bang
it's
and bang.
it's pretty gross. I mean,
Yeah.
it's bad. That's bad.
Yeah. I wonder what
But
tribes, because there's some tribes that were so brutal, that, yeah.
it might have been Mohawk.
Wait,
I
what's it
don't quote me
again?
on that. Don't quote me on that. Do not quote me on. This is a book that I read years ago, years ago.
I'm looking it up.
Um, but
Yeah, self-mortification. Well, let's see. Brave tribe. Some of it. So they still do it, but it's not
can't be to that extent.
the Plains Indians.
Can't be to that extent. Well, you know what? We don't know. We don't know.
Well, it says now. It says in the past it had involved self-mortification and piercings, but not really now. They still do it, but it's not that. But it was originally the Plains Indians. I don't, they, no,
Are there other ways to test someone's devotion and commitment to an
I don't know.
organization?
How about nail them on a cross?
Well, the original, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like,
If you, yeah, I mean, so why,
so
so then
brutal.
let's look at that. So if you want to prove yourself, that's what the to prove yourself, you have to endure pain and humiliation, whether it's the Braves or Jesus or new pledges or so what is it about you have to be humiliated and degraded and mortified to pass a test. What is that?
Well, like the one comment she made that it's almost like a weeding out process, right? Like if someone
Okay.
buckles and caves and fails at it, they're out. So they feel like they're getting the cream of the crop because these guys endured it,
All right. So let's
and
think
that
about it
says
this
something
way.
about them.
If we go back history, wars, all, I mean, cavemen go back, right? You need to know you have the toughest of the tough because you don't know what's going down. And if they can't handle it, right? I get it. If they can't handle it, then you know that you can't depend on them, right? Because they'll buckle. So therefore, they're not worthy of the brotherhood or the tribe or the unit or, the squadron, whatever it is, because if they buckle, all right, so I bet there's some of that in there. If you have to be hazed, because we have to know that we can trust you to not buckle under pressure if you're part of our brotherhood, right?
I can understand that, military speaking, or back in the days of you actually, when you walked out of your cave, you were in mortal danger of like someone attacking you. I
Yeah.
can't understand that in a social organization on a
No, I
college
can't
campus.
either. So they took this tradition and have abused the tradition to glorify whatever their own weird twisted needs are, is really what it is. Because if you look at these other organizations, even like the Elks Lodge and things like that, the Moose Lodge, they there's some of those dynamics. They had rituals for you to come in. But even like the Braves, just what I'm reading, they don't do what they used to do anymore because it's not culturally necessary. The
No,
ceremony is
it's
important, but
not.
why? So again, I'm saying this is just an institute to feed and support an abusive environment because there's no reason for it. We don't live in those times anymore.
Right. Like I remember being in high school, and at my high school there were sororities.
Yeah, there.
I got I got blackballed because the one girl didn't like me. Tara George. I wonder how you doing these days.
Oh, I'm
Um,
friends with Tara Darch on Facebook.
oh, for Christ's sake. Tell her I said hi.
She's a roller
Um,
derby girl
she hated me. Um, but I remember when the girls would pledge sororities,
in high
um,
school, really.
in high school, there was like two. It's
Okay.
only because they wanted to have a formal. There wasn't any reason for it.
Oh,
But
okay.
like they had Hell Week, right? And each day of Hell Week, they had to do something different that was humiliating to them. They had to, it was little small things, right? But like, I remember, I mean, being a teenage girl, right? Like the one day they couldn't wear makeup to school. Being a teenage girl, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, I'm gonna have
Mm-hmm.
to reconsider this,
Mm-hmm.
or they had to wear like mismatched clothes, or they had to carry around a sign the whole day that said like, something
Oh, this is kind of
stupid.
ringing a bell. Yeah.
Um, but they did and thank God I got blackballed, Tara George. I don't want to be part of your nonsense. So like, and that doesn't go along with my personality. Like if somebody said to me, you have to do this, so you can be with us, I'd be like, I don't want to be with you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you
You know what I
survived
mean?
your marriage. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I remember that from high school. And so that's going back and think about being a teenager and how teenagers are always constantly worried about what people are thinking about them and how they look and how they this and how they
Yeah.
that. And it was for 5 days, but every day was a different thing. They must have been dying inside.
Mm.
And that was the humiliation part.
Mm-hmm.
Like how bad do you want it? Right? How bad do you want it?
Yeah.
And it's like, but what am I getting? Right? Like
Yeah.
I'm being humiliated, or I'm being forced to drink an entire bottle of Jack Daniels, which might kill me, or I'm being made to have sex with a sheep. What am I getting out of it? Truly, I get involvement in a group,
Right.
but so what?
So
You could
it's
join the
and
chess club and get the same thing. I
yeah,
mean,
but there
like,
this whole sorority or the fraternity thing is really like we're your ride or die, we got your back no matter what. So is it just having, you
are
know,
they?
oh, I don't
But are they?
no, but that's the theory. Oh man, they throw each other under a bus. You saw it happen.
I mean, like, are you going to sign in blood a contract saying that you're going to be there for me for the rest of my life, no matter what the situation is?
That
It
somebody
just,
probably
it
did. Yeah.
doesn't, it doesn't seem proportionate,
Yeah.
right? To
That's why I think
what,
it's taken out of context. It's not what it, when there was a time when every moment that you walked out your door, it was life or death. Yes, I do think that there's something to be said. I need to know that you don't buckle under pressure because you may have my life in your hands every day. That's different, you
because
know?
the friggin' brontosaurus might come up from behind me and want to rip my face off. So I need to know that you
Ellen,
can handle a spear.
there's no people when the Brontiosauruses were around.
Not according to the Flintstones. Okay. That's what I base it
Well,
on.
that's true.
But
Well,
I see
the
that's
Brontosaurus
when
are Vegisauruses.
Oh, okay. But see, that's when there was an
The
element
T-Rexes
daily.
eat the people.
That's when there's an element daily of
Yeah,
survival. That
that's true.
is not how we live anymore, right? That's
Not
not how
every day. No, no. On occasion, yes. And that's why you need to know who. I mean, I have wonderful people in my life, and I can I can think off the top of my head the
Present company included.
this is true. And you know the people that you would call on. Like I know you, if I said, look, we gotta, we gotta go cut some bitches, you'd be like, okay. You're like, where are we
You're
going?
like, yes, I haven't done that. No.
You know, but I also have people in my life that couldn't do that. But I know the
Right.
ones that would if it really came down to that. Everybody's got their strengths. But
So
again,
you're saying I'm good at cutting edges.
no, but you know, there's the
Never
there's
cut
the people
anybody. I just want to
there
put that out there
just
right
want
now.
to clarify. There are people that should be the lead people who lead you into battle. There are the people you know to put up in the front. You know, any kind of team, there's the people that will manage the back end. There's, you know, there's all, and you know who those people are in your life, but we don't have to test those limits like we used to a billion years ago or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and you know what the thing is? We're having this conversation now,
Hmm.
right? We're having this conversation now. It's May, right? 3 months from now, when college fall semester starts,
Yeah.
incoming freshmen, it's all going to happen again. It's
No,
all
the
going to
Monday
happen
I
again.
just got sad that it's only 3 months for fall to come.
Sorry.
Like, come
I'm
on.
sure it'll be a really warm fall this year.
Okay. All right.
But do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
all going to happen again. And you hear about fraternities or sororities losing their charter if something like this happens because the organization itself doesn't want to be known for this. So if something egregious happened, like with the kid from Buffalo, I think that I can't remember what campus that was. It was out of state. I think they lost their charter, but they don't lose it indefinitely.
Right.
It's like a punishment.
Yeah, it's a short-term punishment. Yeah.
But losing your charter, that doesn't mean that those people don't still consider themselves gamma gamma cots. Do you know what I mean? Or that they don't hang out together still, or that they don't
Yep.
want to. So the losing the charter doesn't really, it's not really a punishment.
And you know that there are conversations between these fraternities that are saying, this could happen if we did it, but it's no big deal, so let's just do it. You know, I mean, you know, they're sitting down and they're like weeding out the consequences. Oh, this would be a really good one. Well, we could get busted. Yeah, but we'll just get our hand slapped. It's no big deal. I mean, those are conversations,
And
you
don't think, and don't, like some of the larger fraternities and sororities in the country, they have lawyers. They have to.
know. Hmm.
Because their super active members are kids between the ages of 18 and 22.
Yeah,
Right? Their
yeah,
alumni and their donors are older and obviously aren't hazing people at the golf course. But I mean, like, they are looking at like they know like these kids, first of all, if they're drinking or doing whatever else they're doing, they're dumb to begin with just because of their age.
yeah,
Then you're gonna throw all that in there. Something's gonna happen. Like we gotta be like,
yeah. They
oh
got to be
gosh, or
prepared.
like I remember being in college and there was a rugby team, but it was a club rugby team. So it
Okay.
wasn't sanctioned by the school, it was club.
All right.
And they would have rugby parties at this one bar,
Okay.
always the same bar. Okay. Oh my God, it's all coming back to me. And I remember we would go, and if you were a female,
Yeah.
you were kind of a target.
Hmm.
Unless you had immunity, which meant you knew a rugby player. Okay. So if you were standing at this party, and then we're talking like, pitchers of beer, draft beer, or whatever.
Mhm.
And if they threw a ping pong ball and it landed in your solo cup as a
Mhm.
female, as a
Yeah.
female, you had to chug the entire beer in front of everybody.
Hmm.
Now, this is not hazing, but this is what I would call a unhealthy environment.
Mhm.
So if somebody said to you, but I knew a rugby player, so I was good.
So you're fine.
But then in every party, they made one girl the rugby queen, who
Mm.
I think was usually the drunkest chick there and
Yeah.
probably had taken her shirt off already.
Yeah.
Um, if someone said to you, "Oh, there's a rugby party on Friday, do you want to go?" Every girl like hesitated. They're like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if I want to go because you were like taking a risk
Yeah.
of being humiliated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there was that risk. There were some other stupid things they would, but it was always girls. Oh, and I think another thing, if I'm remembering correctly, you always had to be careful when you went to the ladies' room because any minute one of them could have kicked in the door. That was another one.
Yeesh.
Nothing like going to a party and being on fucking on edge the entire time and not even enjoying yourself. So I
Yeah.
think I went to like poo my entire
Yeah.
time there, and I was like, this isn't a good time. This is not a good
No,
time for
you're
me.
just a target. Yeah.
But that culture,
Yeah.
right? That culture, that like where did this come from? It's almost like a punishing culture. Like when these kids get through the hazing or the initiation or whatever you want to call it, the
Yeah.
humiliation, and they're a full member, it just doesn't sit well with me because it's like when some of these guys are performing these hazing um, acts on other people, are they enjoying it? Because
I
if they're
think
enjoying it, that's something else we need to look
that's a
at.
whole nother thing. You know what I'm also thinking is what are other circumstances where we condone abuse like this?
Without a real purpose.
Yeah.
Like I'm not touching the military. Those people need to be trained. I mean, you know that I have a member of my family who's a Navy SEAL. Um, that had to happen. They
Hmm.
needed to know that he was able to conduct himself right
Yeah, that's,
successfully.
there's a reason behind the madness during
There
boot camp.
is.
And
Mhm.
it goes back to what we were talking about. We need to, and that, with that, it does come life or death because they need to know that they can depend on you. And it is truly about weeding out. It absolutely is.
And you're not going to go rogue, right? That
Yeah.
you respect the hierarchy and that you report
You
to
have to,
somebody
because
and you
no matter
listen to
what they say, in that moment, that should be the
matter of
only
life and death.
figure. So, all right, so that's that. So situations where you are, but like hazing, like where there's this natural thing where like, oh, they're pledging, it's a haze, where it takes to the point where I'm trying to think where people don't even go and talk to anybody about their experiences because it's been normalized. So maybe let me say, what are other areas where abuse has been normalized? I know they're out there, but we're so numb to it that we don't.
Well, I mean, okay.
Mhm.
I don't want to go as far as to say this is abuse. Look at all of everybody's favorite shows, Survivor, The
Mm.
Amazing Race,
So
you know,
exploitation, reality show, watching other people suffer.
you got to climb into a glass case with cockroaches and lay there for an hour. And if you do, you win the challenge.
And then there it is because you consented. You didn't necessarily know what you were
Oh,
going to get into.
they probably sign a whole bunch of shit before
Yeah.
they start those
But again,
shows.
but then you said you didn't know. But yeah, you're right. So there's this, because that a lot of those people, in fact, you can see videos, people that are still recovering from the trauma of some of those situations.
Or, okay, and we can even make it a little bit lighter. Um, Oh, okay. So like the show Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent,
Okay.
Simon Cowell became known
For
for
being a
being
dick.
the acerbic
Yeah.
asshole, insulting
Where we
person.
accepted his behavior. We did.
Because you know what? It was entertaining. It was entertaining if somebody came out and they started singing and they weren't, I mean, first of all, let's not overlook the courage it took them to fucking do it in the first place.
Yeah.
But people were waiting because if the person wasn't good and I don't watch that show regularly, but when someone wasn't good, they
I
immediately put the
almost feel
camera.
like this, like the reality show and the competitive show, which is basically our entire TV world now. I think that's something else to look at. Who are we as consumers to be watching that? Oh, that's a whole nother thing. But let me think for a second. So environments where we condone. So let's just take back discipline as children when we were kids. It was just accepted that you whacked your kids on the butt or you whacked them upside the head in public, right? You just whacked them up. You're like, you can hit your kids. Sure, you can hit your kids, right? It's just like, yeah, you can hit your kids. They're yours.
The most understood thing is pain.
Yes. Yeah. And then at some point, you had people going, I don't think
Oh, that's such a great idea.
yeah, they're like, I was hit a lot, you know, and then I got
Like
hit.
daily.
Yeah, I got hit with things. There's it. Like the idea of people hitting their children with things now, like rulers and belts and like that's. But we were
No,
like,
I have a
okay,
funny story.
yeah,
And this just makes me laugh because this is all it took. If we were down, we were sitting down for dinner, and I'm talking about when we were like younger. If we were
yeah,
around the dinner table and the three of us were like fighting or something. Do you remember? Okay, do you remember the game that there's a paddle and there's a ball attached to it, and you could be like ding, 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 ding.
yeah.
Remember that? Okay, so my mom had that paddle, but she had ripped the ball off of
You
it.
ripped the ball off.
So
Yeah.
if we were fighting, she would get up and she would get that out of the closet, and she would just go, "Who wants it first?" And we just stopped.
Right?
She never hit us with 'cause the second that she said it, we were like, and then we caught on after a while. I was like, she's never actually done it. And it's so
But it was just the possibility was so daunting that, but that's
it just
something that is definitely,
it was actually kind of genius because she never actually hit us
well, that's the beauty of it. It's like when I hold the water bottle up to the dogs and they just go, oh,
for the spray pot.
they're just, oh my God. So Miles the bulldog, the little Bobby, he is the
Mhm.
baby, right? So there he is right there with his little face in there he is. So he's decided he needs to get up like a baby multiple times in the night.
What you
Well,
said. That's why
yeah,
you have a sleep divorce right
that's
now.
right. That's right. Well, let me tell you what happened last night. Okay. So he
Okay.
gets up. It's the second time.
Oh God,
And
Katie.
now it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, what do you gotta do? And I know what I gotta do. I gotta ignore him, but I did this time. I ignored him for almost 45 minutes and he kept barking. So
You Ferberized him?
so I come down, I'm like, do you need to go outside? What are you doing? He's like, so he goes outside. So I
Aw.
look outside, I'm waiting. It's a beautiful night, right? And I look and he's jumping in the air. Now his back legs don't work real good because he's got
Pure joy.
yeah. And I'm like, wait, I go out there, he's eating June bugs. Like they're candy. And then he's knocking them down. I'm like, no, no, no. And I can hear him like in his mouth, right? So I managed to muscle him in.
Oh
I'm
my
like, not
gosh.
eating them. And then he's barking and barking and barking, going to the door. June bugs. It's all he wanted all night long. I feel like it's going to be another night like that.
How okay, you need to Google how to repel June bugs from your
Well,
yard.
I called my exterminator.
It's
I
gotta
called
be
him. I did tell them, could you come a little bit early? I didn't say my dog was eating the June bugs. I just said we have a lot of June bugs. So they did spray today.
well,
He was
Miss Lulu.
jumping. Yeah, no,
But that's hilarious that it was like why didn't you take a video? He was so
because it
excited.
was 2 in the morning and I was blind with exhaustion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, the other night I let Lulu out to the backyard, right?
Yeah.
Not even thinking about it. Do. There's a knock on my front door. And so I open it. And there's a guy standing there with Lulu.
Oh,
And I
okay.
was like, I mean, the look on my face, I wish I could have seen it because I was like, wait, she's like supposed to be out there. What is she? Is this the right one? And he said to me, he's like, and she ran right back in. And he said to me, well, I know you have a dog. I
Oh,
go, oh, that says it all.
yeah, there you go.
You, you know, this is my dog. So I went outside and I was like, did she jump the fence?
Yeah.
Because like the fence has the pokey thing. I'm like, she's gonna impale herself on that
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
No, my back gate was open,
Oh.
which is never open.
Hmm.
Mystery.
Yeah.
But when she came in, she was kind of like, she looked at me kind of like,
Yeah, yeah, she
I'm
knew.
like, did you have a good time?
So the other thing is
So,
then when I'm up at 2 in the morning, there's
God.
this cat that
Mm-mm.
shows up on my driveway and nobody believes me. I'm like, no, guys, there's a cat. It comes into our yard. So, and it looks at me like I don't live there, and it does. And there it was. I caught it last night while I was waiting for Miles to eat the kid. Look at that cat. Look at that.
Pretty.
But it's looking at me like, who the fuck are you? I'm
And
like,
why is it just why wandering at 2 in the morning?
why is it doing it? I don't know,
Uh,
but it's always that time of day.
maybe
Whoops.
it's like the movie Night Bitch. Maybe it's like a
Great
your
movie.
neighbor, but it's a cat at
Mhm.
night. Okay, now I'm just getting weird.
See, look,
Um,
see, look at it looking at me.
it's pretty. It
No,
is.
it's
It is
it's
looking at you.
looking at me. That you can see it's nighttime because you see my solar light. No, you can't see it. There's my solar lights going. See that?
See? Did you show your family and say
I
here?
did. I did. Now they
Believe
believe
me?
me, but wasn't as satisfying. Anyway, I do think
Anyway,
we need to think about these other areas that condone abuse and why is it accepted? What is the piece of it that we just, and then I do think you touched on something interesting is, what role do we play when we watch like Survivor or Fear Factor, or we are like these observers, these voyeurs of suffering? What is that?
or what about like TikTok challenges where they have to hurt themselves and then put it on, like
Yeah,
what are we doing?
Tide Pods.
Oh, that was just who
Maybe we're
thought of
just
that?
stupid. Maybe we're just like our genes are just down to
Maybe
this.
our gene pool has been so diluted by this point that we're the dumbest creatures on the planet. Maybe that's what the answer
Or
is. And
maybe
we
it's
don't,
wrapped up into the full circle.
ooh,
People do all
bring it
that
home.
because they are looking for acceptance and belonging. So maybe that's our trigger. So people are eating the Tide Pods because everybody else is eating the Tide Pods and they want to be in the Tide Pod crew, just like these people allow themselves to be hazed so they can belong.
So then being able to survive the Tide Pod challenge is a badge of honor and elevates you above other people who didn't do the Tide Pod challenge.
Because you took the risk and you survived.
So
And
we're
now
still a very hierarchical society, even though we think we're evolved.
And so, but some of our base needs, which is community and connection, because again, going back to caveman, if we have numbers, we're stronger. If we're alone, we're less likely to survive. So we're
But
taking,
in order to not be alone, you have to prove yourself to be in the group that survives.
yeah. So our lizard brains make us do weird things because it's not life or death anymore. So then we eat Tide Pods.
Wow. Aren't we just brilliant? I mean, why do we have to?
Now I'm having an existential crisis.
Why does it have to be Tide Pods? Why Tide Pods? I mean, like,
Or any of it. They put a whole mouthful of cinnamon in their mouth. Dumb things
that
to
makes you cough.
belong
That's
and
why
get
they,
attention. Attention. That's another
or
thing.
drink a gallon of milk without throwing up. Seen that one, right?
Yeah, or
Drink a
drink.
gallon of milk in an hour without throwing up. Apparently, it's extremely hard to do. I don't like throwing up. I'm not going to make myself throw up. I'll tell you what gets me into a group that has courage and
Yes.
shit like that, and I've proven
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
Gave birth.
Yes.
Okay,
Again,
gave birth.
Happy Mother's Day, by the way. Yes,
Happy
that's
Mother's Day.
true. I want
I
to be a
don't
part
feel
of.
like I need to do anything more. When you have a C-section and they take all your organs out, take the baby out, then they put all your organs back in,
Yeah.
and you're hoping that they put them in the right order. Yeah, I think I tested myself enough on that one.
Well, there you go, right? Let's talk about pain that is productive and accomplish something. Eating a Tide Pod is not a productive pain. What are you doing?
Prove yourself to me, have a baby without an epidural.
Yeah, I was good. I was good until I was talking about throwing up. I was epidural free until I started to want to puke, and then I'm like, give me the epidural. That's when Like, I don't
Oh,
want to
I know.
puke.
I know. I remember when I was having Ian, who makes appearances regularly.
Yeah.
Um, and they were like, you can have popsicle, you can have popsicle, you can have popsicle. And I'm like, yeah, give me a popsicle. And I was having a red one, had a purple one, and then they broke my water and I just threw up everywhere.
It was like the pride parade of vomit while your water's like,
It was horrible. I was like, oh, that's such a waste of popsicles. God damn. I'm like,
here
I want one
comes
of
the
those after
purple
I'm done.
one.
And I was like, why'd you give me so many?
No, I
You're the
didn't
medical
puke.
staff.
I
What the
did.
hell?
I know. What were they thinking? Maybe you were just so happy when you ate them they couldn't have them.
It did, yeah. But I mean, when you're going through birth, like throwing up is one of the least of your problems. But at the same
Not for
time,
me,
you're like,
man.
I
I
have
I
to puke
didn't.
and have this
No,
going.
I did it. I didn't want to puke. I gave birth and nothing should tear like that because Jack Miller came out so fast. But I didn't do any of the thing, you're like, I don't want to poop, I don't want to throw up.
I did
I
it
didn't
all.
care. I no, I
Did it
didn't.
all.
I didn't do any of that stuff. But I just didn't want to puke. I mean, I was cool with whatever was going to happen. Didn't want to puke. So
Oh.
that's where I set the limit.
I only puked with Ian and Gray. I didn't puke with Peter, but Peter was 9 pounds. So
Oh,
Peter like just tore me, like, Okay, sorry, folks.
we're still recording. Okay. Anyway, that goes back around. If there's going to be pain, let it be productive. That's the club I want to be in.
Well, yeah, so proportionate. I just hope these kids give some thought to this. The perpetrators and the
I know.
willing, give some thought about it. We don't need people dying unnecessarily
It doesn't
for
make you, and this whole thing of like, even to this day, I was so drunk, I puked and then I drank again. I mean, that's not cool. That,
puke and rally. Yeah, you've heard that one.
yeah, it's not,
PNR.
and so I think that that's part of our culture too, that it's just how much alcohol can you take? How much,
How much
excess,
anything? How much
excess,
excess?
excess.
How
I
much
mean,
can you
oh my
handle?
God, fishbowl margaritas at TJ Fridays. Who made that up? That's a terrible idea. Here.
This drink weighs more than you do,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
please
Go ahead, have
indulge
it.
and then
Have it.
drive
It's
home.
2 for 1 tonight. All right.
Made with the cheapest, shittiest liquor we have.
Oh,
So
God.
enjoy your tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, this was good.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Happy May. Bye.
Happy
Bye.
May.
Bye.
Bye.